I'm sure you've seen Problem Child, that great Carrie Von Erich movie from 1990.
Sorry, you almost made me die on a combination of rum and Red Bull.
My name is Shannon Reed. I've been a wrestling fan since the mid-1980s. I consider myself a casual historian. I'm also a professional wrestler. This podcast is dedicated to wrestling's glory days. I'm talking about the NWA, Mid-South Wrestling, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and more. Maybe you want to get extreme with ECW. Well, you can do it all right here on this podcast because we're going to have something for everybody. And yeah, we'll talk about modern wrestling as well. So tune in right here on Read This with Shannon Reed. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to part 2 of the Shannon Reed podcast with special guest Graham Cawthon. I hope you guys enjoyed part 1, where myself and Graham went over some of our favorite live event memories. Here in part 2, this is going to be a very visual episode. I hope that you're watching on YouTube for this one because we're going to be showing some of our favorite wrestling memorabilia that we've collected over the years. So this is definitely dedicated towards a video audience. Some of our collectibles are pretty rare. Some of them not so much rare as much as it just has like a personal meaning to us and just things that we really enjoy. When recording this episode with Graham, I actually forgot to show some of my stuff in my collection. So I have some of my rare t-shirts with me. I got my WCW Public Enemy hockey jersey from like 1996 or 97. I got my Dusty Rhodes Nikita Koloff Superpowers t-shirt, as you can see. And then right behind my head is a Crockett Cup 1987 t-shirt, which has Ric Flair, the Road Warriors, Barry Windham, Dusty Rhodes, Nikita Koloff, and the Rock and Roll Express on it. I think that's probably the most rare shirt that I have in my collection because I don't really see it anywhere else. So I have a lot of the shirts from the old days. A lot of ECW shirts, as you'll see in this episode. I also have a lot of Rock and Roll Express shirts, which I don't show. I got a shirt of theirs from Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which is pretty rare to have some SMW Rock and Roll Express shirts, and I got several of their shirts from the 1980s. They're all way too small because back then everybody was smaller, and the large size was kind of like a small today. But you're going to see a lot more than shirts in this podcast, so I hope you'll stay tuned. Let's go ahead and get it underway. Part 2 with my special guest, Graham Cawthon.
Sunny Beach. All right, welcome everybody to part 2 of Read This with Shannon Reed, and I got Graham Cawthon back with me. Graham, I was thinking, now, last time we were talking about some of the events that we went to, growing up, WCW, WWF arena events, and I left one out that I was going to tell you about. So, Wembley Stadium, 1992. British Bulldog against Bret the Hitman Hart. Front row. I remember Davey Boy on the European feed came out to Final Countdown by Europe. I can imagine that if you could be at one show in wrestling history, it would probably be that one.
Well, I mean, if you were to look at this poster, and if you were, I don't even know. Before I say anything, weren't you wearing that shirt last week?
I haven't. I've been so busy editing that first part of that podcast that I just haven't had time to change clothes or shower, and I've been, fabricating my Wembley Stadium stories since that time. So,
well, if you'll see, if I can, I don't know which way to point. Not that way. Anyway, nope. There we go. There's my finger. If you see where my finger is right now, you will see a ticket stub from that show.
Oh,
So
wow.
for all anyone ever knows, I was there. I was not there, but I was there.
Yeah. I remember you on the Coliseum video. They asked you who was going to win between Davey and Brett, and you said that the British Bulldog was going to win whether he wants to or not. So
How amazing is it that over the past year we learned that's a girl?
is it?
That's a girl. Yes, that was an actual thing that came out this year. They tracked her down, or someone
Wow.
that was related to her. Yeah, that's a girl. No, actually, the story from the opening of the show that I can best relate to is when they asked the girls about Shawn Michaels, and they say, "We love you, Shawn Michaels." I ended up marrying one of those girls, the cute one.
Say what?
One of
Is it?
one of the ladies that says we love you, Shawn Michaels. Yeah, I ended up marrying one of them.
Are you shitting me?
Yes.
Ah, I was like, this contradicts what we were just talking about off air. Like, I
Does it
thought
though?
I thought she was into nature, not nature boy. You know?
She does appreciate his theme music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is that Sean or Flair?
Sean. But she's seen Flair up close.
Gotcha. I'm one of the only people maybe that prefers the Scary Sherry version of the HBK theme.
Me
Is that
too.
right?
Yeah. Well, I mean that's what we were introduced to.
Yeah. Do you remember that like terrible instrumental that he started with during his heel run?
I have heard it, but I didn't start watching until a few months later, so it was already forgotten by then.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, but we can talk about Shawn Michaels all day, but I'd much rather talk about Bret Hart. Uh, anyway, Graham and I today are going to take you on a tour of sorts of some of our wrestling collectibles. Well, Graham is going to take us on a tour. I got all my stuff surrounding me that I'm just going to pull out. So, Graham, whenever you would like, you can show us all of your wrestling things that are going to make us jealous and hate you.
I don't want to dominate the conversation. How about you go first?
You want me to go first?
I want you
Okay.
to go first.
All right. So I don't have like a prepared order to kind of show this stuff. First of all, and I'm not in any way trying to say that all of these things are rare. They may be rare to some people, but mostly it's just like a collection of my favorite items. And some of them are pretty rare, but a lot of them maybe not so much. So I brought some of my wrestling books. I have, in the pit with Piper, I have an autographed version, which is cool because he's, obviously passed away. I have an autographed Terry Funk book, which I believe there was a signing he did at a Hastings in St. Joseph, Missouri, that I went to, and I believe that's where I got this autographed.
I don't want to cut you off. I want to see a lot more of what you have, but I have a great short little story regarding that book.
Awesome. Go ahead.
So when I was 24, maybe, Lenore, North Carolina, started getting a bunch of really cool house shows.
Oh,
With
I'm very aware. These were the CCW shows.
yes, and they would bring in Dusty and Terry Funk and just and it was so affordable and so much fun. And so I started going to those. And I think the first one I went to, it was Terry Funk against Dusty Rhodes. And I had him sign that book. The first time I ever met Terry Funk, certainly not the last time, but I had him sign that book and I had him write in there, to Graham, you egg sucking dog, Terry Funk.
Awesome. I wish I would have thought about that. All I got was, "Hey Shannon, the best always to you and your family. Hope you like the book, Terry Funk."
That's pretty honest.
As far as my wrestling books, I got the Dynamite Kid book, Pure Dynamite, which is really good. I think my Harley Race book is autographed as well. Yeah, to Shannon. He always signed his autographs best in sports. Like every Harley Race autograph I have, best in sports Harley Race.
Which sport? He's just the best at all sports.
That's a fact. Harley Race is the best in all sports. But I remember he would say that in like the early '80s, like when he was the champ, sometimes. So
When he was the champ of synchronized swimming.
he was the champ of all sports. Women's gymnastics. I have this William Regal book, which was kind of a rare thing at the time here in this country, where he went around doing some book signings, and that was roughly the only way you can get it unless you ordered it online. And my friend Aaron got it for me, and so it's autographed as well. One of my favorite books is my Ole Anderson book, and it's autographed as well. Just says Shannon, enjoy the book.
If I was going to have Ole sign anything, I would say to Graham, I hate everything. Ole Anderson.
Right. I love Ole. I'm a big Ole fan. I remember at the first time I met him, they were doing a Four Horsemen photo op, and I sat down with the Horsemen for the picture, and Ole looks over at me and he's like, "Damn, aren't you going to lose some weight?" Yeah. So he Ole'd me right away.
Wow.
Yeah. So fun times though.
That guy would be a billionaire if he would just shut up.
Have you ever seen the outtakes of him in Georgia, the one with Gordon Soley, where he has Gordon open the dildo? Okay, apparently not. I've got to get you this tape. I think it's on YouTube where he pranks Gordon Soley. It's pretty funny.
I do remember when they first posted to the network him at the first Georgia show in Baltimore, where I'm sorry, what is the promoter's name? He ran all of Baltimore.
Gary Jester.
Yes, and he's interviewing him, and he just goes right in the middle of it. What the fuck is this guy's name?
Yes. It was on one of their hidden gems. It was like a house show, right? Yeah.
I love hidden gems. I will watch hidden gems all day long. Just add to it.
It's my favorite part of WWE Modern Wrestling is hidden gems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just wish they would release more of them.
That's all I want for my birthday. That's all I want for Christmas.
Another kind of polarizing figure besides Ole, I got my Bill Watts book. Unfortunately, it's not autographed, but I'm a big Watts guy. I'm gonna go through some of the rare kind of magazines I have. This is a Japanese wrestling magazine from 1988, and it was covering one of their tours, of which you can see the Road Warriors, Rock and Roll Express. We got Abdullah and Tiger Jeet Singh on the cover. The interesting thing about the Japanese magazines is the photography was so much better compared to American magazines. The magazines were all like slick and colorized, whereas the Napolitano magazines had some good pictures, and PWI did, but it didn't really compare to the quality of the Japanese magazines and the shots that they would do. So I picked up a lot of this stuff at FanFest. This is a Mid-South wrestling program from 1985 that was sold at the matches. We got Terry Taylor on the cover.
This is interesting. Basically the template for the Mid-South program is very similar to the template for the early WWF programs.
Is that right?
I mean, if you change out the photo, and if you change out, the wording along the side of it, that's essentially what a early 80s WWF program looks like.
Huh.
And I will show you that in a few minutes.
Awesome. Awesome. So it'll look just like this, except we'll replace Terry Taylor with a rooster. Is that correct?
Probably with a picture of Bruno. That's about it.
Right, right.
Which is a difference of about a $50,000 house.
Nice, nice. Bruno probably, I would guess, would have the longest gap in between MSG sellouts because he was selling out in the 60s, and I remember in 87, I know Billy Graham sold out in 87 against Butch Reed, I believe it was.
There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, Superstar Billy Graham and Butch Reed sold out MSG in 1987.
I do not believe that. And in fact,
if only there was a book where you can fact check this. Madison Square Garden, 1987. I'm pretty sure they sold it out. It would have been in the fall, probably.
Yeah. Talk amongst yourselves.
But going back to Bruno, so he was selling out in the 60s, and I'm pretty sure he had at least one sellout in like 86 or 87. Yes, Graham?
You're right.
You're the one that's supposed to know this stuff.
But I'm looking on the card to see what actually sold the tickets. I guess it was that. I'm shocked.
Yeah. That match on paper in 1987 doesn't sound very appealing. Yeah. So I think I just blew your mind with that one.
You kind of did. Then again, it's been a long ass day, and I'm sorry. It was a short day. A week ago today was a long ass day. And I'm enjoying rum and Red Bull.
Awesome. But I was thinking, I don't remember when Bruno's last MSG sellout would have been, but I feel like he sold out once in like 86 or 87.
It was 2013.
What's that?
It was 2013.
It was 2013.
No, it was. He sold out in the Hall of Fame.
Ah, okay. Did he say that in his speech?
I don't know, but I do believe that is another MSG sellout. So to his credit, like everyone just kind of, yes, that is a sellout. He sold out like, I don't know, 200 times. We're going to add that one more.
That would have been pretty cool if they added that to his resume.
No, I think that's pretty the general consensus at this point. It was like certainly 1986, because I do know he was working semi regular in 86, maybe also 87 because he was subbing for Jake a lot in 87. So you could say 87 to 2013.
Wow. Yeah. So I have a program here from Bunkhouse Stampede.
Wow.
Now, from looking at it, it's not from the 1988 pay-per-view, but rather it looks like it's from one of the January of 87 Stampedes that they would have as house shows.
Because Rude is in there.
What's that?
Because Rick Rude is in there.
Yeah, Rick Rude is in here, and it says the second annual Bunkhouse Stampede. My guess is that they probably sold this at all of the Stampede house shows. And so I was lucky enough to get one. Looks like I got a few autographed photos here. John Cena. I'm going to give that away. I already know who I'm going to give it to.
I'm sorry, I can't see that. Can you hold it up one more time?
Yeah, you almost got me with that one. Yeah, okay. There's just nothing there. Just a glare and a guy in a rock and roll funk shirt. That's all you see.
I know Cena is someone that a lot of people like to hate on. He is my hero. He is the hardest working man on the planet, and I give him all the credit in the world. So
when I said I'm going to give this away, that wasn't me trying to be like, oh, John Cena. So I'm not what I would call a big John Cena fan, but I respect the guy. I think he gets a lot of flack that he doesn't deserve. I prefer him over most of the top guys WWE has pushed over the last 15 years. I think he was a good wrestler that worked really hard. I have a friend that's a big John Cena fan, and I got this at the Arnold Schwarzenegger does this convention in Columbus, Ohio, every year called the Arnold Classic, and I got a T-shirt that I gave to this friend of mine that's a big John Cena guy, and I forgot I had an autographed photo, and this is from that event too. So when I saw it, I was like, I'm going to give him this autographed photo too. But yeah, I respect John Cena.
The Arnold Classic is actually in Ohio.
Yeah, it's in it's in Columbus, Ohio. I've been to one or two of them, and one year they had John Cena there selling, like, you get autographed photos or pictures, and I remember because he was doing it at the same time as Randy Couture, the UFC fighter, and I was more of a Randy Couture guy, but I was with Aaron, and he wanted to meet John Cena, and either way, it was going to be a long wait. So we just kind of waited for Cena, and I was good with that. So
that's cool.
Fun times. Stone Cold Steve Austin autograph photo. Chris Benoit autograph photo. So, yeah.
Never got one of those.
I got a program from one of the Pillman Memorial shows because I went to two of these. I went to the 2001 ones, and these were cool events because they had a mixture of WWF and WCW talent, and they, at times wrestled each other. Mm-hmm. One of the best live matches that I've seen to date was Chris Benoit against Steven Regal at one of those Pillman shows. So that really stood out.
That's the match that got Regal hired, right?
You might know the story, but it wouldn't surprise me because it was such a good match, I got this like Rock and Roll Express magazine, and I don't know. I'm assuming this was something that went out to fan club members, but I think I got this off of eBay, and it's just really just a Rock and Roll Express magazine, but one that I really like.
They're not doing like Playgirl poses in there, are they?
No, luckily
okay.
Not. So NWA had a brief magazine.
Speaking of Playgirl poses.
Yeah, like Total Package, Lex Luger. Pro Wrestling Digest, which I guess would have been a forerunner to like the Wrestling Wrap Up. I think it was a short-lived thing that was just sold in arenas. I don't think it was ever on newsstands. I could be wrong. And I haven't seen a lot of those types of magazines. Ooh, this might interest you. I got a Baltimore Arena program from September 6th, 1986.
Ooh, that is nice.
Yeah. So, it's got a lineup, which looks like somebody wrote the results of the show on.
Someone needed to do that, absolutely. So we got Dustin, Rick, Tully, and Ron Garvin. So a lot of it is like Great American Bash holdover stuff. Okay, yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's a pretty cool thing to have. I have a program from the 1987 War Games, which was at the Omni in Atlanta.
Wow, that is cool.
So that's a pretty cool thing. I have two Mid-South wrestling programs. This one's from 1985, Rock and Roll Express against the Dirty White Boys, May 3rd in Houston. And then I have another one in which this is from April 19th. So this was headlined by Ric Flair against Kerry Von Erich in a 4-team elimination match between the Rock and Roll Midnight, the Freebirds, and the Dirty White Boys. So it's kind of a cool program to have. I have one Smoky Mountain Wrestling program where this was at the time they were doing the 3-team feud between the Rock and Roll and the Heavenly Bodies and the Stud Stable. But it's like a magazine kind of a deal. And there's the Kevin Sullivan spiking Wing Kanamura, which was a famous bloody angle they did on television. Wrestling Review magazine. I got it because the Rock and Roller on it, but that's Bruce Springsteen and Jim Brunzell on the cover.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much did Brunzell pay for that photo?
I don't know. Maybe that whole time when the Killer Bees were masked, that wasn't yeah. This is kind of a rare autograph photo, I think, because both of these guys have passed away, but I have a Public Enemy autographed photo, which is autographed by both guys. I have a Starrcade 87 program, Chi-Town Heat, Chicago, and it's another magazine type program filled with color photos.
That's such an interesting show. The older I get, the more fascinated I am by Starrcade 87.
When I was a kid, that was my favorite show because it would have been late 80s, early 90s, and I was just renting it all the time because it was the only NWA show our local video store had.
Oh, okay.
And so I watched it so many times. Now, the show to me today isn't as good as I thought it was back then. I just loved like the scaffold match with the Rock and Roll in the Midnight, and then Barry Windham and Steve Williams. Like I loved the music on the show, like the entrance music, and but now looking back, I think Starrcade 85, 86, 88, like I think a lot of them are better than 87.
Right, right. And that's what makes it so fascinating because by 87, they buy Florida, they have Central States. Like it should be the best show ever.
Yeah.
It should be longer than it is. It should have more people on it than it is. And it's just this. How is it just this?
They had such a strong core group of guys they could have had a much better show with. And I think most people would say that the Survivor Series show that it went against was the better of the two shows, which is kind of sad because Crockett was known for having these like, they were the ones that catered to like the work rate fans, like the fast paced, matches and things like that. Whereas
wrestling is real.
Yeah. But like Starrcade 87, like Nikita Koloff against Terry Taylor, just kind of and so it just didn't really hit like a lot of the previous Starrcades, and of course as a kid I didn't realize what a detrimental show that was overall. Granted, it wasn't all of their fault, but taking it to Chicago and out of Greensboro was a mistake. The Road Warriors finish, obviously hurts. But the deal with the threats to the cable companies about we're not going to give you WrestleMania 4 if you carry the show. I mean, that killed him dead in the water. So
if only they had known that WrestleMania 4 was going to be boring.
Yeah, if I could say one thing about Starrcade 87, and I do like the show, it was better than WrestleMania 4.
Yes, it was. And I don't want to hijack anything, but here's my takeaway that I always say whenever Starrcade 87 comes up. Imagine if you get, instead of what you got, imagine if the card is the Road Warriors against the Sheep Herders and Arn and Tully against Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin. Does that change your opinion of the show at all?
I actually think it makes it worse. I would love to co-sign on that, but the thing is like for years the Road Warriors have been kept away from the NWA tag titles.
Okay.
And if you're going to do a show in Chicago and you're not going with the Rock and Roll because they've always been in that spot,
right?
What better way than to put the Road Warriors? Now, what they did wrong is that the Road Warriors should have won that match, in my opinion.
But then we wouldn't have gotten Arn and Tully as an all-time classic team.
Well, I'm not saying that the team should have broken up. And maybe, and I don't think, I probably would have hurt the Road Warriors to have like a short Tommy Rich style reign, because they're the Road Warriors. They're supposed to be the best team in wrestling. I think with the Road Warriors against the Sheep Herders, it's just so obvious that the Sheep Herders are not. It's not a winnable match for them.
But much more so at the time. Not like how you look back at them now as being the Bushwhackers, but at the time, they were super bloody. It would have been just a major brawl that they could have really sold big on television as like a Crockett versus UWF crossover match. Like, who is the tougher team? And then right after Starrcade, you get Arn and Tully against Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin anyway, because Jimmy Garvin is getting title shots against Flair. So I just thought at least you wouldn't have gotten that giant bullshit backlash in Chicago, which is what's credited as being this horrible thing.
Yeah. I think a Road Warriors Sheep Herders feud could have worked. My only thing is, like, obviously they were a lot better and more credible as the Sheep Herders. But it always seemed like they never, if you look at their time in Crockett, they never beat the Fantastics. They never beat the Rock and Roll except that one DQ win at the Crockett Cup '86, which was really just an excuse to get them to the next round to further their program with the Fantastics and put the UWF teams kind of in a good spot. But probably the biggest name team the Sheep Herders beat in Crockett was maybe the Lightning Express or Ron Simmons and Eddie Gilbert. So it just felt like, even in '87, so around the time of Starrcade, they would have been the UWF tag champs because they would have just beat Armstrong and Horner.
Because then you put the belts on the Road Warriors and retire them.
That actually would have been a good idea, because now that I think about the idea of, you can give the Road Warriors the belts, so they're still going for the belts in Chicago, but have them be the Sheep Herders. So I think that could have worked now with a UWF tag title kind of in the mix. Yeah. And then, like you said, they were going with Hayes and Garvin anyway against Arn and Tully for much of December. And so I think that would have gotten over more than like just a random 6-man tag with Hayes, Garvin, and Sting against Eddie Gilbert, Larry Zbyszko, and Rick Steiner.
Which got no one over.
Yeah. You know what, though? I am glad that they cut the Ivan Koloff Mighty Wilbur match, which was originally supposed to be on that show.
Well, didn't that happen at one of the satellite shows?
I think it happened in Greensboro, because I think it was like the headline match. I think like the New Breed wrestled like some team, like maybe Black Bart and somebody else. But yeah, and I'm sure that felt like a real slap in the face to the Greensboro people, getting Ivan Koloff against Mighty Wilbur as your biggest in-house match and then having to watch on the screen.
I don't understand why they use Greensboro and New Orleans as satellite shows before the Chicago show, because they both suck. Just put everyone on the Chicago show.
Yeah. Another thing about Starrcade '87, but the night before that, they ran in Long Island, New York, and they had a way cooler lineup at that show, which was never taped. It was like a double main event. There was a War Games that had never happened before, like this combination. It was Dusty, Ron Garvin, Barry Windham, and the Rock and Roll Express against Tully and Arn, the Midnight Express, and Big Bubba. So you got this kind of cool ass War Games dynamic with people that have never mixed in that environment. And the other main event is the Road Warriors against Ric Flair and Lex Luger. Like, that alone is a pretty damn strong lineup, and I feel stronger than anything at Starrcade '87.
And you got to believe, looking back, that show was just to build the attendance for their next pay-per-view in January.
Yeah, which was another kind of meh pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now going back to some of my, like, I guess some random NWA cards, like everyone has some of these old ones, so it's not really rare, but I only have a few of them still left. This is in pretty mint condition. I got the PWI Super Color poster book special.
What is Ricky doing right there? Look at Ricky Steamboat.
I do not know. Maybe little Ricky was being bad and he was trying to scare him. I don't know. Let's see. Just trying to. I feel like I'm long-winded.
No, you're fine.
I have an Undertaker autograph photo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I got a Shawn Michaels autograph photo. And I think this one's kind of rare because this is another guy that's since passed away. I got a Mike Awesome autograph photo. I got another.
Where did you get Taker?
It was a gift. It's got one of those WWE seals on it, but it was a gift from a friend of mine that I would have got maybe 15 years ago. But it wasn't like I met him in person and got it. It was just a gift that they had gotten, I think, off of eBay or something. So,
yeah.
I got this another NWA magazine, Wrestling Today. I have about 200 of the old, like, Apter and Napolitano magazines. I just pulled one. It's probably my favorite cover there ever was. I actually mentioned this cover in my first podcast a couple weeks ago.
Things you cannot do today.
I know. I was thinking that it would not work. I got a program for the first Crockett Cup event.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
No, New Orleans. Okay, never mind. New Orleans.
Oh, yeah. Baltimore was 87, so this was New Orleans. And
but I have great wrestling memories from the Superdome too, so that's just as good.
Awesome. You know Bobby Yates, right?
Yeah.
He was at this first Crockett Cup, and so I'm pretty jealous of that.
Wasn't he posting the other day that he stole the Road Warriors sign from that show?
Yeah.
Sorry, did I say that out loud on a public forum?
I was thinking of that. The statute of limitations is probably ran out on that. It'd be funny though if he gets like a nasty email from Frances Crockett.
She's still alive?
Yeah, maybe.
What deal with the devil did she make?
No, wait, no. So Frances was the old lady, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so she couldn't still be alive. So we'll say David Crockett.
Is he still alive? Yeah, he's still alive. Yeah, okay, never mind. Yeah.
I got another Japanese magazine signed by Stan Hansen.
What year is that? Because I see Garvin as the champion.
It says December 4th, 1987.
Okay.
So, and then it looks like I got another Rock and Roll Express magazine. This is like the third Starrcade 86. What the hell is the word I'm looking for?
Program
that I've come across.
How much have you had to drink?
Right, exactly. And I guess we're talking about the Baltimore Crockett Cup. I got a 87 Crockett Cup program.
Can you imagine being of age that weekend in Baltimore?
That was, that was a great show. And the Ric Flair Barry Windham match is one of the best matches that year for sure.
But just imagine that you're 22, 23 years old and you're staying at, I think it's the Days Inn, because I stayed there too. I went to my first trip to Baltimore. I saw U2 across the street from the Baltimore Arena. I think it's the Days Inn. So you're staying at the Days Inn. There's probably wrestlers from the show staying at the same hotel. You go down to the harbor, which is where all the tourists go, and you see like Baron von Raschke, you see Rick Rude. They're just hanging out, being tourists. And
Yeah,
then at night, you go to two of the shows that to this day, 35 years later, are regarded as like one of the best weekends of top notch wrestling that you will ever find. Like that's an all time weekend.
for sure. And unfortunately, I was 7 at the time, and when I rented the video years later,
It was heavily edited.
heavily edited. A lot of the matches weren't even on there at all, and then they spent an hour of the video showing old Magnum TA matches. And I like Magnum, and that moment where he walks out is a very special and memorable moment. But they showed like his Kamala match and like the Wahoo match and the I Quit match. It's like, no, I want to see Crocky Cup matches, you know?
But I loved Kamala.
Yeah, I mean, Kamala was great, but I mean, they had already released that on the Bash 85 video, you know?
But did you ever meet Kamala?
I did not, but everything I've heard is that he was a really good guy.
If you had, hold on, I'm going to master my finger at this point. There we go. If you had met Kamala and had Kamala sign that right there, you would have been so thankful that they included that on the cassette. The only limitation of the cassette is that it's just 2 hours because that's the way that the world was in 1987.
Do you know how many times I rented a video from Turner Home Entertainment and the matches I wanted to see
We're
weren't
not
even
allowed.
on the motherfucker? Speaking of that Kamala match that you just pointed to, did you see about a year ago somebody posted a clip of that match with The Undertaker, and it was like a spot that they edited out of the release where Kamala had done a like they were just moving really fast and Kamala did a leapfrog and they kind of got off step a little bit. And so it was kind of a botch, but it was authentic looking and cool looking. But apparently they had edited this out of the releases, but it was on the satellite feed or whatever that aired in the UK. Did you ever see that?
No, in the UK feed for some of the matches is completely different because the UK, even the UK video cassette got different matches than the US version did. So the UK got, Tatanka and Berserker and maybe the 6-man tag, and we never got that one. And to the best of my ability, there was also a version in the UK that has the entire show, which would have been 3 hours plus that
Wow.
we never got here. Yeah.
I do remember they showed El Matador against Papa Shango on primetime.
Yep. Yep. They had a few of those UK exclusive pay-per-view matches that only aired on primetime here in the US.
Gotcha. So a few other things. Now, this is one of my rare items. This is one of the things that I'm probably not going to part with, and it's a Bash 87 pennant with you can see Ric Flair, Lex Luger, Dusty, and Ricky on it.
Well, most of those guys are still alive if you ever wanted to get it signed.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm afraid to get it signed by Ricky because every time I take him one of my prized possessions, I end up just giving it to him. Just
Kind of
because,
like you and my posters and my books.
right. Because he gets excited to see him, and he never got to see him back then. And so I used to have a foam toy belt with Ricky and Robert on it, and I gave it to him, and a rock and roll jacket that I gave to him. And so I have to quit bringing him stuff because then I feel obligated to give it away.
Do you ever go to the School of Morton?
No, I've wanted to, especially back when I was wrestling and around the time that we teamed up, but it's just so far away. And, with my responsibilities here and working full time and parenting and that kind of stuff. But I would love to just visit it. I've watched like videos of like tours that he's done where he has some of his memorabilia like displayed, and some of it I gave him. And so it's kind of cool to see that. I'd love to go there in person sometime.
So it kind of sounds like he has a similar setup than Jimmy Valiant.
Yeah, maybe because I think Valiant, does he still run his school in like North Carolina?
It's probably about an hour from Roanoke, Virginia, which is where I went to college, and that's where I found him and started going by his school almost every Sunday. But he's got, last I know of, he's got a compound where he's got his house, he's got his school, he's got his almost like a museum type setup where like a shed and a few other buildings on the property. But it's that's one thing is probably I miss most from my college days is driving to Shawsville, Virginia, and every Sunday between 12 and 4 he was running his school, and no air conditioning, one ceiling fan at the very top. So basically, it circulated none of the stank. There was a lot of stank in the essentially a barn that was set up on the property where everyone was doing drills and training and everything, like running the ropes. But the stank was very distinctive.
Wow. Yeah. I guess that might have been why Big Mama chose to get out of there.
We don't talk about that. He found his angel 30 years ago. He married her, and everyone's happy now.
Awesome. Yeah, he always seemed like I met him a couple times at some of those events, and he nice guy, laid back, down to earth, kind of. He just seemed like kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a gypsy kind of guy, and you know.
He is. I mentioned earlier, when we were talking about FanFest '05, how I'm so thankful that I was able to go to that because I made so many friends going forward. But I am shocked as to the amount of people that trained under Jimmy Valiant in the early 2000s who I have come under, who have become good friends of mine now. Like 2003, 2004, 2005. If you went through his school and graduated at that time, it's a very good likelihood that we are friends. And that is shocking. But it just goes to show that his school is just a hub when it comes to the Southwestern Virginia and North Carolina area. Like, that's where everyone goes. That's just so many people have come out of there that later ended up in CWF Mid Atlantic or some other indie where they've gotten a lot of buzz, and we have hung out at some point. It's shocking.
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to say they were trained by Jimmy Valiant?
I'm putting it on my LinkedIn right now.
I mean, are they gonna like check into this? I mean,
No.
All right. I'm gonna finish going through my stuff so that I don't hold you here all night, and then we can start going through your stuff. How about that?
You're fine. You're fine. Tomorrow's Friday. I'll just coast through the day. It's fine.
All
No
right.
way.
So these aren't super rare, but I have the entire set of the famous Crockett Cup the Crockett 7-Eleven cups, Flair, Nikita, the Road Warriors, Barry Windham, Rock and Roll, all those guys.
Wow.
But I actually do have some cups that are more rare than that, though. I have 3 cups that were only sold in Charlotte at the '86 Great American Bash on July 5th. And I know this because the date is on here in the name of the city. So this is a Robert Gibson Cup. And it says July 5th, 1986, Charlotte. And I also have a Ric Flair Cup, the same date and city, and a Ricky Morton Cup. So I guess if you went to that event, you must have been able to buy whichever one of these you wanted to drink out of.
Was it just the 3?
I don't know if there's more than that, but these are just the three that I have. So
That is, I've never seen this before. That is fascinating.
yeah, on the back it's got the name of, I guess, a local radio station that I
Oh,
don't.
WSOC, that's the local TV station.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. When I was working for the newspaper in Shelby, that was our local TV partner, and I do not remember if they were CBS or ABC, but that was the local affiliate. So when Rick is helicoptered in, that's the WSOC helicopter.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Um, yeah. Okay. And I don't remember. Did it have like a big number six on the helicopter? Like, was it channel
Whatever
six?
whatever number it was, yes.
Gotcha. Awesome. But yeah, so I guess the only way to get these would have been to be there that night. So that's kind of
That
cool.
is cool. I've never seen those before, and I would really be interested to know if they made more.
That's another event that Bobby Yates was at.
They
Uh,
probably stole lots of things.
right. So any remaining cups are probably in his collection.
Are we going to have him on the FanFest reunion show
We'll have to do that
to
because
talk about things that he stole?
one thing I asked him one time, I said, Bobby, so you were at the '86 Charlotte Stadium Bash. What'd you think of it? Like, how was it just being there? And the only thing that he had to say was about how hot it was. I'm like, you literally were at the Bash '86, Flair and Morton in the cage, Flair coming in on a helicopter, Dusty and Magnum against the or Dusty and Magnum against the Midnight in the cage with Baby Doll and Cornette, and all you remember is how hot it was. Like, they talk about white privilege. That's wrestling fan privilege right there.
No, that's me at WrestleMania 34. Like, ask me what happened on the show. I remember I spent like an hour trying to find a Nakamura jacket in the stadium, and then I came back and Brad called me up about who won the cruiserweight title.
Brad's another guy I'd like to have on here sometime.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's he and his wife are about to be completely vaccinated. So once they're vaccinated, once we're vaccinated, finally we can have people over.
Awesome. Because yeah, I remember you guys went to a lot of those events together, like the Mania weekends and stuff.
WrestleMania 30 is like an all-time adult peak fandom weekend.
Awesome.
I got to see WrestleMania 30 with No Way Jose and God, I forgot his name. His NXT name. Anyway, never mind. That's how much I've had to drink. I'm gonna shut up now. Anyway, I saw WrestleMania 30 with way too many people who are now much more famous than they were.
Gotcha. So my next thing is so when Ricky Morton came down here and teamed with me in January of 2018, we took this photo in the ring, or at least a photo was taken of us, but I got him to sign it later, and that's my son that's with us there. And in that match at the end, I brought my son in the ring, and he gave him this bandana that he had been wearing in the match, and I got him to sign it as well. So that was a pretty cool thing. I brought one of my wrestling figures, and it's not that it's super rare, but it's my favorite, and it's the one that I've kept over the years, and that's my my bloody Abdullah the Butcher. Got to have the bloody one. So I got just a few more things to show. I got several Rock and Roll Express bandanas from the '80s. I got some old ECW shirts. I got the Sandman. You can see him there. And then I got this kind of a general ECW shirt. I got New Jack, who was my favorite at the time.
Oh, so real quick, my wife is a criminal defense attorney, and we watched the new Jack special. What was it? What's the show?
Dark Side of the Ring.
Dark Side of the Ring. It goes to show the line of work that she's in, that she giggled throughout so much of the new Jack Dark Side of the Ring whenever he admitted to doing something illegal or doing something that he should not have been doing. I think she would so enjoy representing him at some point should he ever come to the state of Georgia.
Well, I know New Jack is watching at home, so we got you covered, buddy.
Oh, and Cameron Grimes. I went to WrestleMania 30 with Cameron Grimes. I could not say I forgot his NXT name without saying that. So there you
Trevor
go.
Lee, right? Trevor Lee.
Yep.
Yeah.
And No Way Jose. So there you go.
Awesome. I just have two more things to show, and then I'm done with my stuff. Okay. So this is a Smoky Mountain Wrestling program. Well, not a program. It's an event advertisement that I got from Jim Cornette himself. It's a pretty big one.
Oh, the Armstrong Show.
Yes, I think
That is so cool.
it was in Marietta. It was the Armstrong family reunion, and what was unique about this show, as you probably know, is they have a lot of I saw the fan cam version of this show in its entirety, and
there's a fan cam. I didn't even know there's a fan cam.
You didn't know there's a video of this show?
Mm.
Yeah, there's actually two versions of it. There's a kind of a long, like hard cam shot, which is like too far away, and then there's a closer up version. And I have both, and it's really cool because it's actually a really good show, and they had a pretty good house too. But you got Lex Luger against IRS and 2-3 Kid against Bobby Blaze, and then your standard Smoky Mountain matches, Tracy and Candido, Rock and Roll the Bodies. One interesting thing is there was one match change. It says that, I don't know if you can see it here, Well Done would team with Jeff Jarrett against the Armstrongs, but Jarrett actually got replaced by Owen Hart, and this was just prior to 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I consider that an upgrade, actually, to switch from Jeff Jarrett to Owen Hart. And that's nothing against Jeff Jarrett, but
Hey, so, one guy got cut from WrestleMania 10. One guy arguably stole the show at WrestleMania 10.
That's true. That's true. The 10-man tag got cut, and I think today Owen and Brett looks better than the ladder match, probably. So at the time, it was probably arguable. So I bought this from Cornette, and he cut me a deal on it, basically because I told him that I really remembered this show, and he's like, well, it means something to you. I'll cut you a deal on it. So I don't remember what I paid for it, but it's signed by him too. And then
I've got an interesting story about that. Hold on one second. No, I'm not going to bring another poster, but
give me some more stuff, Graham.
I do have an artifact that ties into that show that I do want to share. So hold on one sec.
Awesome.
Okay. So this cup, this glass, is from the Vortex in Atlanta, Georgia. And in 2011, I went to the Vortex in Atlanta with Jim and his wife, and we ate a lot and we drank a lot. And that's when Jim told me, hey, you see that store right next door that sells like secondhand junk and clothing and costumes and stuff like that. And it's called Junkman's Daughter. And it's a very well-known spot in the Little Five Points of Atlanta. And he said, yes, I do see that. That the weekend, or right around those few days of the Armstrong show, is when I bought my costume for WrestleMania 10.
So that was the gold pants, right? The
That
gold
was
pants.
that outfit he bought while he was in Marietta, during that show, the Armstrong show in Marietta. He went over to Atlanta. He goes to Junkman's Daughter in Little Five Points of Atlanta, and that's where he gets his costume for WrestleMania 10.
Awesome. I got a trivia question for you.
Yes.
So he only wore that outfit at 2 shows ever. Do you know the other one?
Oh God, no. I have no idea.
Smoky Mountain's Night of the Legends.
In August 04 or August 94?
Yeah, August of '94. He wore the WrestleMania 10 outfit with the gold pants and the black jacket or whatever. And it was the only other time he wore that besides WrestleMania 10.
I did not know that. I did not know, but I have the distinction. Yes, it was 10 years ago, but I have the distinction of going to Junkman's Daughter with Jim Cornette while I was drunk out of my head WrestleMania weekend, 16 years after he bought his costume for WrestleMania 10.
That's awesome. You know, one thing I regret from a while back, I was invited to Jim and Stacy's wedding, and I got the invitation in the mail. This would have been mid 2000s, 2000. I was in college, and I had to decline to go because I was in nursing school, and it just wasn't feasible for me to go. But in hindsight, I wish I had been able to make that work. I want to say they got married on Halloween, and they were doing like a Halloween theme. And I remember Stacy telling me they were going to pull a rib on Dennis Condrey and tell him that everyone's dressing up in costume so that he would show up in costume and nobody else would be. I don't know if they went through with that, but I wish I'd attended. So the last item that I have that I brought with me is this is a giant poster from the International Wrestling Institute and Museum that was in Newton, Iowa, and now it's in Waterloo, Iowa. So the story behind this poster, there was a Central States ring announcer from the 60s through the 80s. His name was Bill Kirsten. And I was working as a director of nursing about 5 years ago, and he ended up being a resident of the facility that I was working at. And so we would talk about his old wrestling days. And when he passed away years later, long after I had left that place, I got a call that he had left me a picture. And I had no idea what this picture was going to be. But it was a picture that he had gotten from that Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, of which they had inducted him for, I think, a Lou Thez award or some kind of award that he was real proud of. And he left this for me when he passed away. I know anybody from like the Kansas City area that's of a certain age that remembers Central States will know who Bill Kirsten is. I know High Spots has a DVD of him, like a shoot interview of sorts. But it was kind of cool to kind of get this personally from him, and I actually brought it home from my office because it hangs in my office at work right now.
That is really cool. Who all is on that? Because I thought I saw some familiar faces.
Yeah, so sometimes I look at it and just try to like think of how few of these people are still alive. So we got Lou Thez, Bob Geigel, trying to maneuver this, Antonio Inoki, the Briscoes are on it, Vern Gagne, Harley Race, Baron von Raschke, Billy Robinson, Brad Ringens, Mad Dog Vachon. Let's see who else. Let's see. see who else we got. We got Farmer Burns.
We can't forget Farmer Burns.
Yeah. Gene Kiniski, Pat O'Connor, Mr. Wrestling, Tim Woods, Leroy McGurk.
Wow.
Yeah. The Destroyer, Dick Byers on here. Danny Hodge. Of course, Danny Hodge is on here. Yeah, George Tragos, who I think the Hall of Fame is named after now. Because they do it. They're actually going to have one coming up in Waterloo, where I know like Trish Stratus is going to be inducted, and I think Jerry Briscoe. But yeah, it was just a really cool picture that he left for me. I don't know if it's something that they give to the inductees, and that's how he got it, or if it's just like a souvenir that he got. But yeah, it hangs in my office at work, and then a lot of people ask me about it. So
that is really cool. And also as a side note, Trish Stratus should go into every Hall of Fame, whether it be baseball, basketball, NASCAR. If there's a Hall of Fame, I think she has a very good argument as to why she should go in.
yeah, I guess she's the female version of Harley Race Best in Sports.
Except in this argument, she is really good at female hockey, gymnastics, etc.
Harley was good at driving fast. So he would have been a NASCAR legend.
With boats into things while drunk.
Right. If you have a table just sitting around somewhere, he'll find a way to dive onto Hulk Hogan on top.
I will test that theory. I will get a table out and put it in my backyard and just wait. It'll be like Field of Dreams with a table.
All right, so we've seen enough of my stuff. How about we get the Graham Coffin tour?
So obviously 2020 was a difficult year for everyone. My wife and I moved into this house just a few months before, so like August of 2019. So the majority of 2020 was me trying to build a fortress of solitude. I was working very long hours, and so what I wanted to do was kind of build a nerddom. So I'm going to start off the tour. I'm going to plug my laptop here. I'm going to start off the tour. We're going to have a little bit of a soundtrack because I think it needs that. And keep in mind, I didn't prepare for a walk around tour. So things might not be perfect, but like I said, things might not be perfect.
It looks like Andre the Giant is kissing you on the side of your head right now.
If only. Like, that's the story. Okay. So what you're going to see here is the result of a solid 12 months of planning and just trauma behavior. Well, see, I said trauma behavior, and I can't even hold the laptop right. There's a WrestleMania 3 poster signed by basically everyone who's still alive from the show, and even a few people who have since passed. But I found that in probably 2004, 2005, and had it signed by Bobby Heenan, Hulk Hogan, and everyone, and pretty much everyone in between, except Macho Man. is pretty much the only one the big name, who I would have loved to have had it signed, that I couldn't. So there's that.
Now, I got to ask, did Mary Hart's legs sign the photo?
No, unfortunately not. And if I could flip this and just like shoot it on my phone, it'd be so much easier. But I have to walk around with a laptop. But the Hart Foundation, Harley Race, Roddy Piper, Jimmy Hart, Tito Santana, Rick Martel, just maybe a rough dozen of guys who were at WrestleMania 3 signed it. So there's that one. That's how we're starting the tour. And now, I love this poster so much. If I can only shoot it right. So WrestleMania 5, Hogan and Savage. It is signed by Hogan. Sadly, Savage, no. But we've got Demolition, we've got the Hart Foundation, we've got the Brain Busters, we've got Rockin' Rodman, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Bobby Heenan, Powers of Pain, J.J. Dillon, Jake the Snake. So quite a few guys on here. Museum quality frame. All right, keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. Now, I have to change the theme song because the show is changing. There we go. There we go. You've probably seen this one because I took this to enough fan fests. Survivor Series 89. Now, this was framed back in 2008. So, unfortunately, a lot of guys have passed. But also a lot of guys I have not had the opportunity to have it signed because it was framed back in 2008. But it's still signed by a good dozen or so folks from the show. And I love this poster. I think really what had me love posters and the marketing aspect so much. You still there?
All right, we're back.
Okay.
So this would have been the 89 Survivor Series. So Barry Windham's probably on this poster, right? Even though he wasn't on the show.
Yes. And he and Tully Blanchard.
Right. Tully was replaced by Bobby Heenan. Barry was replaced by, you could probably tell me.
Earthquake. Yeah. So what I love about these, and it's really, it dates back to me going to Blockbuster every weekend. I love the marketing. I love, seeing how the show was sold to the audience of that day in that moment. I remember being, 10 or 11 years old, going to Blockbuster every weekend and just staring at the tapes for an hour, studying the tapes for an hour. And I loved how things were designed. I loved the layouts. I loved the thought process that went into the design, the marketing. It's all about selling it to that audience. And that's why I love the commercialization of that era. So whenever you see a shirt that just popped up at Target that's like, here's WrestleMania 8. Have you seen these, like the new retro shirts that they try to redo an old show like WrestleMania 6 or WrestleMania 7, but there's no Hulk Hogan on it? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, clearly it's made in 2021.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me. Okay, so that's the Survivor Series 89. This, if I can get my head out of the way, There we
Looks
go.
like the 1990 Royal Rumble.
Yep. This was a holy grail of mine for probably 10 years. It's such an interesting poster because it is cut almost as a pyramid. It's such an interesting design, but it's the only one that includes all 30 participants, even your Barry Windham. Barry Windham's in there.
Huh.
But it's the only one that was ever made like that. I got that just about a year and change ago because I fully intended on going to WrestleMania last year in Tampa, and a lot of these guys were going to be at WrestleCon, but obviously that didn't happen. But I had been after that poster for well over a decade. That's one of the holy gems.
Awesome. I remember being pretty irritated when Earthquake eliminated Dusty.
I completely understand that. And we're going to move over here. These are the manias I attended. These are shirts. They are framed. So there's WrestleMania 20 with the graffiti that fell from the rafters after the main event that we all know and love, but we can't talk about anymore. There's WrestleMania 24, which I attended with Michael Elliott, that we all know and love. We actually roomed together that weekend. 27 in Atlanta, and then I can get down on the ground here. 30 in New Orleans, with graffiti that fell after Daniel Bryan won the title.
And that one you can talk about.
That one I can't, yeah, for the time being, until things get really dark. So over here we got a WrestleMania 5 shirt.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, is that the original Brett shirt from back in the day?
It is, and that's actually the same shirt I got on my 12th birthday.
Wow, that was almost 2 years ago.
And there is WrestleMania 9, the first pay-per-view I ever saw live. Yes, it's an awful show, but it inspired so much. And I've got SummerSlam 90, Rumble 91, and you'll notice, yeah, all these are pretty much signed by a lot of the guys. WrestleMania 8. SummerSlam 92 with the ticket stub. Survivor Series 92.
Yeah, that was the first one where they started to kind of break away from the traditional Survivor Series matches, which I know that you were not happy with.
Yeah, but at that time, I was still a kid and I didn't know any better. And honestly, I remember my local cable company for the 10 days or a week beforehand, on the preview channel, they aired the Survivor Series countdown on a 30-minute loop continuously for a week. And so every 15 minutes, I knew when to tune back in to watch the Bret Hart, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers making some noise music video.
Yeah, that was great.
And that's why I'm a Tom Petty fan to this day.
It's the only reason I know that song, because it wasn't like it was like his.
It was not a single. Absolutely, yeah. It was not a single.
Yeah, like it wasn't his most well known, but I know it from the Bret Hart video.
Right. Rumble 93 also, I found, hold on. This is not user friendly, but there is a ticket stub for that too. Along the bottom there, straight center. I was able to find a ticket for that too. So that is room 1. Are you ready for more?
We are ready for more.
Okay. I got to find an appropriate soundtrack here. Let's do. Okay.
Nice.
So I've got. Hold on. I made it so loud and I can't turn it on. I've got a few old VHSs up there, but also a few old posters. These are stock paper posters with Sid and Jake. They are different shows, but they are all from the same week. I think 2 of the 3 of them are from TV tapings. Frankly, I think one of them is from the taping where Macho Man gets bit by the snake. So there's
Cool.
that. We've got a nice pop display that my wife got me and actually built because it came with no instructions.
Now, are those all Star Wars guys in there, or?
There are, most of them are Star Wars because the WWE ones are elsewhere. But I've got an Andre glass down at the bottom.
Nice. Yeah, that display is really cool.
That display is really cool. I'm very happy with that display. Okay, now we're going to flip it over.
The famous Roddy Piper sleeper hold photo.
I love Roddy Piper for the simple fact that he once put me to sleep, and that's a story I can tell until the dementia sets in, and I can never remember that story again. But until I have dementia, I'll remember that story. There's Piper, Flair, Hulk. Oh, the Orlando Sentinel back there. That's from WrestleMania 24 weekend. So that's with the weekend that I had Michael as a roommate. So you know that was fun. There's Brett. There's Terry Funk. And at the cross at the bottom, WrestleMania 27 in Atlanta. 30, New Orleans, meeting Sean, meeting Daniel Bryan, and then meeting Shinsuke Nakamura. And then we've got 8x10s. So I know you can't see that very well. That's Magnum, Bruno, Gary and Michael Capetta, Linda McMahon there in the back, Gary Hart, Bob Orton, Papa Shango, books, DVDs, magazines. Okay. So this is technically room 2. You ready for room 3?
Ready for room 3.
All right. Get to prep more appropriate music here.
That's some WCW Halloween Havoc 90 music. Nice.
So we've got Starcade 89 signed by, everyone but Muta for the
So he got shut out again? He gets shut out of the tournament. So Muta got shut out of the tournament and got shut out of the poster signing?
Dude, if I ever meet Muta, he's getting this signed. Absolutely. But I've never met Muta. So, God, this is so awkward holding the laptop like this. We got Starcade 89. We got Havoc 91, which is a garbage show.
You think so?
But it's so much fun. It is garbage, but it's so much fun. It's probably one of the first WCW old pay-per-views that I rented. And I knew at that point that Ron Simmons at some point was world champion, and I thought that he wins it here, but he doesn't win it here. So, but the loss makes you want him to win it even more.
Yeah, it was like a typical WCW pay-per-view of that era where there's a bunch of great stuff and a bunch of terrible stuff.
Right.
I remember Steve Austin and Dustin Rhodes was great. Bobby Eaton and Terry Taylor was great. But then you had like the Creatures and then like Van Hammer against Doug Summers and, crap like that. So.
And then you've got Rick Rude showing up, which is awesome.
Yeah, that was one of the highlights of the show for sure. And I never had anything against Z-Man getting squashed either.
I remember I had this signed by Abdullah many years ago, and he had no fun memories of this show.
Really?
No.
Well,
he got quote unquote electrocuted.
I mean, he was one of the most memorable parts about the show. Rick Steiner grabs him with the belly to belly, and then he gets fried alive, even though the thing's not really attached to his head; it's kind of hanging off.
And he's perfectly fine the next day too. So
yeah, I heard that Pat Patterson loved that though. Like, I think it was in Pat's obituary that Meltzer wrote. Somewhere I read that he watched that and actually loved it, which makes sense because he kind of liked that hokey stuff.
It was hokey. So what I'm going to show you next is something I actually built myself, and as a as someone who can't build anything, I'm really proud of this. So I built essentially a magazine rack that hangs on the wall here. That is a mix of magazines, comics. They're all bagged. But that program right there, I think it's 1965. The Bruno, and I love this headline. It is so weird. Hold on, so I can angle it right. But it's Bruno and Bill Miller, and they're basically selling the world title matches. Some veterinarian earned a world title match.
Huh.
So basically, whatever weird career you have, if you're big enough, you can get a world title match.
Now, wasn't Bill Miller Dr. Bill Miller?
Yeah, he was a veterinarian.
Interesting, because I remember Dr. Bill Miller. I remember the name, but I didn't know he was a veterinarian.
Yeah, it says right here he's an Ohio veterinarian, and he's now earned a world title match, which really opens the door for you. Absolutely.
Gotcha. So kind of like how Dr. Tom Pritchard was a gynecologist.
I thought it was Jimmy Del Rey that was the gynecologist.
He's been known to do some services.
Actually, I thought it was Stan Lane who was the gynecologist.
He's got his paternity things going on with Lauren Boebert.
Okay, we have to move the tour along now. Also, we asked that the tour is free.
Listen. Don't show any more of that poster. I saw a quarter of an inch, and I already know it's Beach Blast 92.
So again, the tour is free, but we do accept donations. Okay.
Everyone donate to Graham at historyofwwe.com.
There it is.
I always love this poster, and one of my favorite things about it is that for one thing, all of the big matches were great. That is my favorite match on the show, and I love that they're the featured match on the poster, even though if you watch the build-up, it's clearly not the main event. I feel like Sting and Cactus was the main event, but this was the feud that had the most emphasis and the match I was most interested in. And maybe it was the main event because Sting and Cactus felt kind of thrown together at that point, because their feud had largely ended, whereas Steamboat and Rude was pretty heated up at that point.
It was, and also they made it very clear that the end result was going to be Sting and Vader.
Yeah. But that was the first Steiner's Doc and Gordy match, and Pillman and Flamingo had a good match.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can't see very clearly, but above Missy it says breast wishes because she knows her niche.
Did she write that?
Yes. And it would have been 15 years ago, roughly, where she wrote that.
Nice.
So we've got June 92. Now we're going to move over here to July of 92. Yeah, there's a lot of models.
It's definitely a cool poster to have, but I would say it's one of the more uninspired posters.
It is. What I do like about it is rather than showing me everyone's face, at least it lists everyone's name.
Does it list the Silver Kings instead of the Freebirds?
It does.
Which if I remember right, the result at the Clash got changed because they had put out that the Silver Kings were advancing, and that was a mistake or something. It was actually the Freebirds who wrestled Akira Nogami and Shinya Hashimoto because Hase was not on the show, from what I recall. Or no, something like that.
The Silver Kings are on the poster.
What's that?
The Silver Kings are on the poster.
They were eliminated at the Clash against the Freebirds, so it would actually be the Freebirds who went to the match instead of the Silver Kings.
That is correct.
Yeah.
But this is what happens when you have your posters made several months beforehand.
Right.
Okay, so this is July 92. Now we're going to move over here. I know there were some spoilers there, wasn't there? See, this is the most awkward thing in the world, trying to navigate this thing. All right. There we go. Strikeade 92. Battle Bowl.
Good show.
No one loves this show at all.
I love it for a couple of reasons. Great Muta wins Battle Bowl, which I love.
Yeah.
Vader and Sting had a great match. Steamboat and Douglas against Wyndham and Austin. Steamboat and Douglas against Wyndham and Pillman was good. And I actually liked one of the Battle Bowl matches. It was Wyndham and Muta against Too Cold Scorpio and Pillman.
Mm-hmm.
I think Muta and Shono was a little bit disappointing, but I actually like that show.
2 months later in Asheville, North Carolina.
This was a great show. There was 5 matches on that show that you could argue for best match, and I still to this day think Too Cold and Benoit was superior to Liger and Pillman the year before.
I don't think you would be wrong. Oh, also the cabinet here is basically all my old video game stuff that I can't get to work anymore. I mean, they'll work. They just need to be plugged in right.
I think it's cool how you have a kind of a WWF room and then a WCW room.
I think it's cool that I have a house that allows for that.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna do. Oh, who's that? Who's that right there?
Randy Savage.
Yep.
Nice. Oh, that's
Okay.
really cool.
Now we're in Hasbro territory. Well, I can't see what you're saying at all.
That's really cool that you have a displayed like that. Like, I hope my next house allows me to display some of my stuff because I'm jealous. Oh, you got the Macho Funko Pop too?
Yeah, I've got a little cabinet area for Macho Man. I've got a cabinet area for Brett. Got a cabinet area for Hogan. Got a cabinet area for Warrior.
Oh, wow. Is that an LJN war? No, that's not an LJN. What is that?
That's the talking.
Talking. Okay.
Yeah. But that Rampage 92 Coliseum is the first Coliseum I ever rented. And that is sealed. That's still in plastic. That's never been played.
Nice.
And I was fortunate to pick that up for probably $10. So that was a solid investment.
Yeah.
And then you got to have your Kenner Star Wars somewhere. And then you got to have your Masters of the Universe somewhere. And then all the way down here, I know you're kind of looking at yourself for that reflection. But I've got a signed Terry Funk and Jack Briscoe program from St. Louis, signed Lou Thez, and just various other ticket stubs. And the year that I voted in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. So some pretty cool other stuff down here.
So these programs, these old ones, did you get them from Cornette?
No, honestly I can't even tell you where I got the St. Louis one from. I know he has bound versions of the St. Louis programs, but I've had that one for better part of 15 years. I'm sure I got that just for a fan fest. I'm sure I got that just to get signed.
Gotcha.
And then NWO sold out, 97. Signed by Hall, Nash, and Hogan. And then pretty sure that's a Fall Brawl in 99 signed by Hogan and Sting.
Cool.
Which obviously no one was watching at that time, but it's still cool. So that's the walkthrough.
Awesome. It must feel really good to have a place where you can just like display this stuff rather than put it, in a box or in a closet somewhere.
It does, and I have a bunch more that I just don't have wall space for. Which goes to say that these what I just showed right now are the cream of the crop.
Yeah. If you're a WWF early 90s or WCW early 90s fan, like, I don't know how you wouldn't want all of those posters on your wall just like you have them,
I think that, like I was saying earlier about the first Fan Fest, in early 2004, I didn't have almost any of this. I guess I credit FanFest with making me think about things that would be cool to get signed. Also, I think back to when I was a kid growing up, going to video stores every weekend, Blockbuster, and picking up those physical VHS boxes and basically just studying them. Like, I loved picking up the oversized box, like the WrestleMania 6, the WrestleMania 7, and just reading all the matches on the back. And I think over time, I grew to love the like I said earlier, marketing the event to the audience of that time. And that's why I surround myself with these, because a lot of these mirror those old boxes, those old VHS boxes. The only ones that I would 100% buy, if only they were a little bit different, if only they didn't just cater to the main event, would be, let's say, a SummerSlam 89 or a SummerSlam 91, which I love the undercard, but I don't really care about the main event. It does nothing for me. And those posters are only catering for the main event. But I love those shows. Like, those shows are part of my childhood. I would 1000% buy those posters if they had a bigger spotlight on, Brett and Mr. Perfect, or if they had a bigger spotlight on the Legion of Doom and the Nasty Boys. Or hell, yes, I hate on him a lot, but if they had a bigger spotlight on Virgil and Ted DiBiase, like, that undercard of SummerSlam 91 is phenomenal. But if you were to buy the poster, which I think I do have a copy of the poster. It's just kind of ragged. It's just it's the two main events, which, like, that's the hour of the show you don't really have to pay attention to.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned SummerSlam '89, and that's another show with a really strong undercard. And I know that one of your favorite matches, and one of mine that I always love to watch from that show, is Tully and Arn against the Hart Foundation.
Yes. Love that match.
A dream match between, two premier teams that were in different companies, and the only match the teams ever had against each other.
1000%. There's so much. I love that entire undercard. I love Warrior and Rick Rude. I love Dusty and the Honky Tonk Man. Like, there's nothing about the undercard. I love both of the 6-man tags. Like, if there was a design, I love my posters. I love the old posters. But if there was a design for SummerSlam 92 that was built around the entire show instead of just the main event, I would have bought that 10 years ago. Like, that would be what would be behind me right now.
Right. Certainly brings back a lot of memories talking over this stuff. And that was a period in our lives of growing up as kids and teenagers, and something people today won't get to experience, the magic of going to the video store and picking up the video cassette that just came out. I remember oftentimes we weren't able to get the pay-per-views, and I would turn on the scrambled broadcast and listen to them. I would listen to the pay-per-view. So a lot of the stuff we had to go through, people have it easy today.
They do, especially for how much they're spending. Because when we were growing up, it would be roughly $30 a pay-per-view. And I remember doing the exact same thing you just said. Specifically, King of the Ring '98. I was in high school, and I would switch over that Sunday night. I would switch over from a regular channel back to the pay-per-view channel, just for the 10 seconds or the 30 seconds of audio that would play uninterrupted before it would realize that you didn't pay for the show, and that it would cut you out. So I remember listening to the Mick Foley situation at King of the Ring '98 that way, with scrambled video and audio that would cut out after 30 seconds.
Yeah. Some people watching this may have no idea what we're talking about. This has been really fun catching up after all these years, and seeing the tour of your wrestling museum, basically, and just hearing that things are going well for you. I'm happy to be able to catch up with you.
Absolutely, I'd love to do more of this.
I guess we should probably wrap it up, or else we could talk all night. But yeah, thank you for coming on as a guest. And before we part ways, if you could just take this chance to plug your website and your books and just tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter, The History of WWE. The website is thehistoryofwwe.com. The books are all available on Amazon. There's 6 volumes in total. My favorite is the Baltimore book, which would have been the last one, but they get, considerably better as you go. So also Holy Ground, 50 years of WWE at Madison Square Garden is one of my favorites as well. I mean, that's about it. I'm just a diehard wrestling nerd from, the mid 90s.
Awesome. But yeah, it's been great catching up with you. I'll keep you on here for a couple minutes after I sign off here. But everybody, Graham Cawthon, thanks for joining us. I hope you have a good rest of your night, and thank you for helping talk about the old days with me, because it's been fun.
I am also known as Sunny Beach. So if anyone wants to reach out to me that way, it's sunnybeach@gmail.com.
I've heard people call you something that sounds like that. All right. Thank you, Graham. And everybody, visit historyofwwe.com, and thanks for tuning in.